A lot of people ask me this question when it comes to their taxes. They say, hey, Brian, is paying an accountant worth it? My answer is, if you have a simple tax return, then no, it is not worth it. If you have a straightforward tax return and you can do it yourself, like if you're capable, then I highly encourage you to self-prepare it. That's because if you have a simple tax return and you take it to an accountant, then they're going to get the same exact result as you. However, in certain situations, getting an accountant is absolutely worth it. So in this video, I'm going to give you the situations where, in my opinion, you should definitely see an accountant. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Brian Kim. It's very nice to meet you. So I'm a certified public accountant. I'm the owner of multiple tax practices, and I've been in the trenches doing tax returns, but fortunately, I'm out of the day-to-day operations. Well, it's good because I have more time to make YouTube videos now. And today I want to share with you my personal experience. I want to give you the inside scoop. So here's what happens. Here's what generally happens. When a new client comes in, they explain their situation to me. So a lot of times I hear, so they tell me that they have a job, they have a W-2, they have some interest income, some stock sales, maybe a mortgage, student loan payments. If that's a situation, then I'm honest with them. I say that you don't need my services because that type of situation, it's so straightforward, and I'm not going to provide any value. Now, I want you to look at it from this perspective. So if you work a job and you get a W-2, the tax form, it is what it is. There's nothing that you or I could do about it. We can't manipulate it. If you have some stock sales, then it is what it is. There's no leeway for me to work my magic. So all my expertise, it would just not come in handy. When I'm upfront like this, I just tell it like it is, then half the time, the prospective clients, they'll say thank you for being honest, and they'll just get up and leave. And that means I did a bad job of qualifying them beforehand. I could have done that by phone or email, and I wasted my time. But I feel like this is a better approach because I'm not in the business of ripping people off. I'm not going to try to push a service and charge money for something that a person would not benefit from or doesn't. They absolutely don't need this then. The other half of the time, they tell me that even though they have a simple tax return, they hate taxes so much, like they despise it, and they don't want to deal with it, and they're happy to pay for my services. So the way I see it, in that type of situation, value is being provided. So convenience, peace of mind, minimizing your anxiety, or avoiding high blood pressure, that's worth something. If you fall into that category, then yes, you should pay for tax prep services if you can afford that luxury. Now let's talk about specific situations where, in my opinion, it is absolutely worth it to pay for an accountant. So situation number one is dealing with stock options. If you exercise stock options, we're talking about NQSOs or ISOs, I highly recommend that you see an accountant. I would say don't try to be a hero and don't try to do this yourself, especially if it's going to be your first time. NQSOs, they're more common, and this information, it will be reflected on your W-2 and your supplemental information, but a lot of times things go wrong. And it's a very costly error when things go wrong, thousands of dollars, and it could be even tens of thousands of dollars. So in this situation, I would say please go see an accountant. Situation two is the sale of RSUs. So if you get stock compensation, so we're talking about RSUs, so that's easy. That information, it's reflected on your W-2. There's nothing fancy going on. However, if you sell your RSUs, I would really recommend that you go see an accountant. You want to make sure that nothing went wrong, especially if you're dealing with a large amount of money. So I've seen so many RSU situations go bad, and it costs people a lot of money. Situation three, S corporations. If you have an S corporation, then seeing an accountant is a must. With an S corp, you have to optimize your payroll if you're going to try to get the best tax outcome. That's the primary benefit of an S corp. Additionally, there are a lot of tax deductions and a lot of business tax credits that I assure you that you are not aware of. I'm talking about the most obscure tax credits, things that you're never going to find by Googling yourself. So even at the state level, they're not even coming from your state's Department of Revenue. I'm talking about the state's Department of Economic Development, so weird, obscure tax credits that no normal human being should know, but a tax accountant will know. Situation 4, sole proprietors and independent contractors. So if you're a sole proprietor or an independent contractor, please see an accountant. I would recommend, at a minimum, doing a free consultation. So if you find an honest accountant, then they're going to tell you, they're going to be upfront with you. They're going to tell you whether their services are worth it or not, and whether it's a good fit. So the best way, so this is just my opinion, the best way to find an honest accountant or a good one is to check their Yelp reviews. From my experience, I just think that there's more trolls on Google reviews. You should still look at those, but I think that at least for tax accountants, Yelp is better. So during the consultation, ask them about your questions about deductions, about tax credits, estimated tax payments, and also whether it makes sense for you to be an S corporation or not. Situation number 5, amendments. So if you have to do an amendment and it's for a larger amount of money, or if it's for a situation that's a little bit more complex, I would highly recommend that you have an accountant do it. So keep in mind that if you live in a state with state income taxes, and if you do a federal amendment with the IRS, then in most cases, then you're gonna have to do a state amendment as well. So this is such a pain, even for an accountant. I would honestly say that it's better to just dump it on them. So personally, I dreaded doing amendments because it's just a horrible experience. And every time I was doing an amendment, I always thought that my clients, they're definitely getting their money's worth. They're definitely getting their value. If you screw up an amendment, you should know that it's going to take the IRS about 2 to 3 months for them to get back to you and tell you that you screwed it up, and then you're going to have to do it again and go through the whole process. Situation number 6, IRS or state notices. So if you get a letter from the IRS or the state, sometimes it's a very simple request. They're just looking for missing data. A lot of times, to be honest, it's just a stupid request. So for example, sometimes they'll be like, send a copy of your W-2. We want to verify the amount of state income taxes that you paid. So I always thought that, why is the government requesting this? They should have this information in their database. Why are they requesting this? What is wrong with these people? It's just annoying. So for a simple request like this, you do not need an accountant. However, if the situation feels over your head, please work with an accountant. You do not want things to spiral out of control with the IRS or the state. Situation number 7, IRS or state audit. So if you get an IRS audit letter, please do not panic. It's like if you see a predator in the wild, don't freak out. It's going to make the situation even worse. I would highly recommend that you find an accountant. They're going to be your defender against that predator, the IRS or the state. Now, I'll tell you this. When it comes to an IRS audit, in most cases, a tax attorney, that's going to be overkill. It's going to be much more expensive too. If you did something really bad or for a lot of money, then yes, go hire a tax attorney. If you didn't, then I would recommend that you work with a CPA or an EA. So an EA, that's an enrolled agent. So they're going to be cheaper than a CPA, and a lot of times they're actually going to have more experience dealing with audits compared to a CPA. But check their reviews, because there are a lot of good EAs out there, but there's also a lot of bad EAs as well. So those are the more common situational instances where you should hire an accountant. But I want to give you these other reasons as well. So reason number 1 is tax planning. If you have tax planning questions, an accountant will be very helpful. So tax planning, that is a segment of financial planning. If you have general financial planning needs, I would recommend that you see a financial advisor or a CFP. Reason number 2 is building a relationship for future needs. So if you want to build a relationship because you know that in the future you will need a tax accountant, then I would recommend that you be proactive. Go find an accountant. For example, if you know that you're going to start your own business or that you're going to go independent, then do not try to find an accountant last minute. Find someone that's a good fit and find them ahead of time. So please note that tax accountants, they usually stop accepting new clients usually in early March, but some accountants, depending on how busy they are, they're gonna stop accepting new clients in the later parts of February. Reason number 3 is go in for a one-time checkup. So if you're doing your taxes yourself with at-home software, then this may be a really good idea for you. So you can take your most recent tax return to an accountant to have them review it and make sure that you're doing everything right, that everything looks good. So I would recommend doing this after tax season. So a lot of tax accountants, they're gonna be looking for business during off season, so they're gonna have the time, they're gonna have the availability, and it's gonna be much cheaper for you. So I wanted to end with this. Okay, that was my inside scoop from my personal experience, from my perspective at least. So for some people, working with an accountant, it doesn't make sense. It's not worth it. But for other people, it is extremely valuable. It is totally worth it, and I highly recommend it. So it just depends on your situation. This is my honest opinion. I hope this has been helpful. Please subscribe, check out our tax videos, and I wish you a very nice day. Take care.